Hello, beautiful artists. I have what I think is always the most impactful and important techniques with watercolors. And I hope the way I'm going to share it with you is really helpful. This is how I share it in my workshops and my group classes. So let's just go ahead and get right in. The first thing I want to show you, and then what was always important for me is to also show you how to use the technique, because then it will make sense if you use it as well. What I'm going to show you is blending your colors, what the purpose of those washes are and how to use them. So the first one I'm going to show you is just a flat wash, and then I'm going to show you a another wash that gets lighter and lighter, so it's variegated. And then I'm going to show you a third one that is a blended wash. And then I'm going to show you how to use those, because it never made sense to me unless I could see how to apply it. I'm using my number 8 brush. This actually right now is only $12.50, comes in a set with this little brush of mine, a 3 and the 8. And there's all kinds of sets in there, actually. Angle brushes, all kinds of fun duo sets. So I'm also using 100% cotton MEEDEN paper. This is a block, which just means it's sealed on all edges. But I love the Artisto pads, but I think for these beautiful blends, 100% cotton is really going to do you well. You're going to have to work at it a little bit more with those Artisto pads. With the 100% cotton, it's really easy to blend. So let's get right in here. The first thing I'm going to show you is something we've all seen, but like I said, I'm going to show you how to use and apply these. So first we're going to just do a flat wash. So let me grab some paint here, and actually let me just give these a spritz here. So I've got this beautiful blue. This is all my Lang paints, by the way. I just use the tubes in here, but it is the same paint that you find in our beautiful little My Lang palette by Paul Rubens. Love, love, love those. And I just use the tubes in my large palette here. So let's do that first flat wash. The main thing here is, let me see if I can, I'll zoom in for you. So I'm applying this wash, and as you can see, it's just shiny, no puddles. And the reason I am emphasizing that is because once we start adding more color into it, you're going to see how it behaves differently versus if you have puddles or if you just have this beautiful sheen. Okay. So that is a flat wash. Let's write that up there so you can see what that is. So that is, just a flat color. Let's now go to that variegated, and then I'm going to show you how to use this. This would be an example of a variegated wash. So we'll start again with that beautiful color, and I've got about 50 paint, maybe 75% paint actually, a darker value over here, and tap, tap, tap. And when I'm doing a variegated wash, a lot of times I will tilt my paper a little bit. So I'm going in with my darkest value right up here at the top. I'm rinsing off my brush, scraping it off, going to grab that line, pull it down, rinse my brush again, scrape it off, rinse my brush again, scrape it off, until I get to the end. Look at the beautiful transition. So this is perfect for a petal that you want at the base of the petal to be darker. It could be for a sky. That's kind of the typical way we use that. Now let's do a combination here. So let's use our blue. And I'm going to start at the top here. I'm working rather quickly because this 100% cotton wants to soak that right up. Nope, used a little bit different color there. So I've got this wash again, nice and shiny, guys, no puddles. I'm going to rinse my brush. Now I'm going to go into my yellow, same thing. And I want to work a little quickly here before this dries. I'll start at the bottom, come up, and now I start joining them. I can even rinse my brush. And let those join. Look at the beautiful transition. Blue, green, yellow. If this was puddles, you're still going to get a mix, but it's not going to be quite as nice and even. I'm just smoothing it out a bit. So when there aren't the puddles, you're not going to get, you know, this pushing out of the puddle itself. So this is for something, and I'll show you, where I might want to put red or purple at the base of my petal and then work outwards towards the yellow. Something like that would be a way you could use it. And then the last thing I want to show you, I want to throw this in there because I think it's really fun, is let's go, and this is where damp and damp is so much easier, especially for the beginner. So let's do this. I'm going to write. And then this is a mix. So we're mixing two colors here. All right, let's go back into that blue. Again, nice and shiny. And take a look at this on your paper and make sure it just looks shiny. If I lifted it up, I wouldn't have puddles. Get really used to being able to apply a layer of paint like this. Now, I'm going to go into that with, let's go into it with the yellow. So I pick up my yellow, about 50-50, and I'm going to start tapping in here. Now this is damp on damp, shiny on shiny. I could pick up a little bit of that blue for like that gradient and help it a little bit, move it around. And once I lose that shine, I want to get out of there. I don't want to keep going because then I start getting more hard lines. I might start getting, and I'm just using a damp, barely damp brush to blend that out a bit. Once it starts really drying, I'm going to lose that wonderful spread and blend, and you'll start getting those blooms. So if I was to go into, now this might be too dry at this point. I think it is. Let me create a wash and show you how you end up getting a bloom, which, to be very honest, blooms are okay, especially in an organic type of painting. So let's just create our wash here. There we go. I'm trying to get it a little bit darker so you can see this bloom. And at the same time, no, I don't want any puddles. And we're just gonna let this kind of dry a minute till it starts losing its shine. Okay? So let's let that sit just a minute, and this will kind of give you an idea of how much time you have to work. Once it loses that beautiful shine, it's now drier than what you're going to go in with from your palette. And what happens is that wetter area that you're dropping in there, that wetter pigment solution mix, if you will, is going to push against the dry and create that bloom. So I'm going to let that dry a minute just till that shine starts wearing off. And then next we're going to go in and I'll show you how to use that in your paintings. Like I said, that I keep repeating that because that was so important for me. I would be shown wonderful techniques and then I was like, well, these are nice little squares, but how do I use that in a floral? Or for me, it's a floral or even a vase or something like that. So that's why I want to show you how to use it. All right, I'm just starting to lose that shine. I'm going to give it just a little bit longer. I might even blow on it, or we can use this. Okay, that's probably good enough. Now watch what happens when I go in there with a wetter solution than what is there already. It's pretty dry. Let's see if this works. So number one, it's not really mixing and blending with the wetness that's there. It's more kind of staying separate a bit. But what you're going to see here now are the blooms starting to appear. So we'll just let that sit a minute. And that, again, is because what you're going in with, I should have made this a brighter color, is wetter than what's there. So it's pushing, the wetness is moving outwards, pushing against the drier paint that's there, and you get that bloom. So we'll let that sit there a minute, and then we're going to move on to our petals. So what I want to do is let's just have a petal come out here, maybe one come out there, maybe one come out here, and let's start playing with those. So we'll start with this flat wash, and you can already see here the blooms starting to happen. Let me see. I want you to really be able to see those. I don't think I think this is too dry now. So I can't, yeah, that's not going to do much there because it's pretty dry. But you can see the blooms starting to happen here where it's pushing out. All right, so let's grab our blue here. And let's create a petal. It's just basically going to be a flat wash petal. So using the tip of my brush, there we go, flat wash. Now this can be nice if you want to, if you're starting with a glaze. So there is a flat wash petal. Nice, right? But not crazy interesting. So let's move on to the next petal. I'm going to pick up more of my paint, damp, not puddling, and let's come out. And I'm going to apply the darker pigment towards the bottom, just like I started with this gradient. And now I'll go in and we're going to lighten as we move out. So rinsing my brush, scraping it off, and I'm pulling outwards, just like we did with our gradient. Now rinse, scrape, and we go again. And there we go. So that is how I would apply a gradient to a petal. Mixing a bit and playing with it. Just like that. That's nice, a bit more interesting, right? Now let's do a combination of two colors here. So I'm just going to, and by the way, are you noticing the blooming effect here? So let's go to our third petal here. This time I'm going to use two colors. So I'll go in first with my blue and just creating kind of like we started with this second petal here. There we go. Now, rinse my brush, get that blue out, wash and rinse my brush. Now let's go in with our yellow. And I use these two colors because they're quite bright. And I'm going to start blending these. I typically like to work coming towards the color I'm blending with. Rinse my brush a bit. Oh boy. Happy accident, right? And now I just keep rinsing my brush and pulling that towards the blue. Rinse my brush again. Pull it towards the blue. And the trick here is you want, again, that damp brush. You don't want a ton of pigment on there. Wash and rinse again. And look at the beautiful gradient. Isn't that so pretty? Now, let's do, where is it? Oh, this effect where I applied a wash and then I tapped in some color. Okay, this is so beautiful though, isn't it? Now I could have tapped in some darker blue here, something like that. Okay, let's create another petal. So I'm starting with that beautiful blue and creating my petal here. There we go. A little bit more. A little bit more. Damp brush, not wet. There we go. So pretty. We've got a nice wash. I even lightened it a bit at the top. And let's tap in that yellow. Get all that blue out. Now I'm going to tap in that yellow. And I'm letting that spread. Just tapping it in here and there. And because I did this at the right time, it's spreading really nicely. Now, if you put that tapped in color and you're kind of like, I want a little softer edges, use a damp brush and kind of like I did here, just give it a little help, but don't work this too much. Let the watercolors do their thing. Now I could even go in and tap in a little bit darker pigment before this dries. Once it loses its shine, you're done. You're not going to get that same effect. Or you might get some blooms. So I do this quite often. Now, if it's not really blending, it's either because of your paper or like here, just using a damp brush and helping it out a little, it is already starting to dry. So it's not wet enough to let the colors merge. So I'm gonna leave that at that. I might tip my paper a bit. And now I'm getting out of there because now this is starting to dry. It's no longer damp. So if I go in there now, do you know what happens? Because it's dry and I go in with something wet, you're gonna get that bloom. So I hope this helped. Now, I think I'll keep it for another tutorial, but here's where, you know, glazing could be really pretty. I can't stand it. I have to show you. So let me pick up a little bit of my yellow paint. It's rather watered down, but I don't have a lot of liquid on my brush. Now, I could glaze over this with this yellow, and I don't want to mess around in there too much because I can reactivate that blue. But that would be a way to add in yellow too, is a very light glaze over the blue. So I hope this was helpful. Please practice this. This can be like really life-changing. If you know you're going to be working with things like this, try this MEEDEN. I've been using it for years. I share it with you a lot. This MEEDEN 100% cotton paper, I feel bad when I see beginners trying to get these effects and they are struggling a little, and it's not because of you. A lot of times it can be because of the paper. So cold press, 140 pound. I can recommend the MEEDEN because even a cold press, 140 pound, can be treated differently, have a different coating on it. I know the MEEDEN is great and it's a good price point. Arches is great, of course. You know, all those really expensive papers, I can't afford to use those every day. MEEDEN is one I can indulge in and it works. I would hold it up to Arches or some of those really expensive papers. So I hope this helped. I'd love to hear your comments. I hope because I applied it and showed you how to use it, that was helpful as well. And, you know, just have fun. Try these out. And I will be right here. I'll be reminding you, you are an artist. You can do this with the techniques and the right supplies. You're going to succeed. And I want to make sure that you do that. All right, everybody, so much love to you. Thank you for being here with me in my little community. You know, I'm a small fish in a big, big ocean of wonderful, wonderful artists, and I appreciate every single one of you guys. You make this so much fun for me. All right, I will talk to you soon, and happy painting.